they'll try it and they'll be like, okay, well, I lost money. And they'll do it again and do it again. By that, just by trying it, they're gaining more confidence. Well, hello again, and welcome to episode 2 of the Few podcast. My name is Robert Shein, financial advisor and the founder of The Few, along with my co-host today, Madison Evans. Madison, welcome.
Thank you, Rob.
Well, how was the first episode? How'd you feel that turned out?
I thought it was good and it was fun.
It was fun. It was a little bit easier. We've got a great team and supporting cast. They're really encouraging, great director, great creatives. But yeah, this is not easy because it's our first time. So audience at home, thank you for tuning in for the second show. Today, we're going to talk about the first principle of my 7 keys to financial wellness. And the first one is mindset. Madison, what's your thoughts on the word mindset itself?
The word mindset itself. Well, I think that mindset is important in anything. And we work in finance. And I think that mindset is extremely important in finance. And it's very interesting to see everyone that comes through our office and just how different everyone's mindset is.
That's excellent. In fact, yeah, mindset, I was raised, my great parents, and my mom was very, very, Italian mom, very strong, and she raised strong boys, right? If she had girls, she'd raise strong girls as well. Her mindset was second to none. And she really installed in us was like, hey, listen, if you want to be the president of the United States, you can. If you want to do this, you can. If you want to dunk a basketball, you can. By the way, I eventually did. She had that mindset that was like always super, super nurturing and encouraging. Looking back now, you kind of look at your mom and be like, yeah, no, there's things that you thought I could do that I really couldn't do.
Yeah.
But that's the role of a mom, right? That's the role of parents and sort of your surroundings. But mindset as it translates into our careers now in the world of finance, there's a lot of what I've learned through my experience, 25 plus years is the psychology, right? And what I mean specifically when I talked about the 7 keys is there's a commonality, especially we have the ability to be around those that have been very successful entrepreneurs, those that have built businesses, those that have just done very well, let's say in real estate portfolios, whatever they've done in their life. Now they're in the sort of the back half where they want to just worry-free retirement, hire us to basically create a game plan and a pathway forward so they could worry-free, right? Enjoy kids, grandkids, and control and ultimately solidify their legacy. But what I realized is in dealing with sort of all of those successful clients, if you will, there's a mindset. They're all positive. If you look at sort of the Forbes, millionaires and billionaires list, they actually did a study that the most millionaires, if not all millionaires and billionaires, have a positive mindset. It's when you wake up in the morning, how you're going to program your own mind. Right. I try to do this with my kids, right? And when you have teenagers, it's kind of hard. They're always like ups and downs. How was your, son, how was your day in high school today? And he's always telling me how, just some goofy story of like, no, let's reprogram your mindset, right? Come on. You're a teenager. You'll get through this. But when it relates to money and money problems, everyone always thinks they're going through something, and they are, financially speaking. I always say that. And you never know what your neighbor's going through, and your neighbor really shouldn't know what you're going through, because it's one of those sort of kitchen table economic things where you have to be able to like go through this and then have the right approach, right? The right team around you, the right mindset to help you. A lot of sports psychology. If you look at the books around me, I've got Pat Riley to Lute Holtz. And if you read those books are all about building the right mindset to move and propel you forward, to encourage you and to sort of break the existing habits and create new habits. It only takes 18 days to break a habit, right? And to create and replace that with a new habit. So everyone can do it.
You said that you coach your son and your daughters and people that come in here on their mindset. What is some advice that you give to your kids or just anyone on having a better mindset about life or money specifically? There
are a lot of commonalities there, right? Whether it's relating to money or just relating to your overall life. And ultimately what we do for our clients is create the vision, right? The plan. And so when I'm talking to my son or daughter, or even a client, we ask them the question of, where do you see yourself in the future, right? And and where would you like to be? Forget about where you are. We'll talk about where you are. We'll level set expectations and we'll figure out where you are financially or just in life, what you want to achieve. But put that vision map, right in front of you, front and center. You know, Simon Sinek, he's one of my favorite authors, and he has this great quote about, well, let me do this with you right now. He says, your mind is built for positivity. It can't think negative thoughts.
Okay.
Number one, right? And to show you the power of your mind, I want you to close your eyes. I'm going to ask you a question.
Okay. Eyes are closed.
Don't think about an elephant. What are you thinking?
Elephant.
Yeah. So what you put in your mind is what you're focused on, right? You know, if you've skied before, I ski, I'm sure you ski, right? And when you're at the top of the mountain, you're looking down, okay?
Right.
And there are trees on side to side, but there's also a lot of snow in between. So when you're looking down, you want to envision yourself going down, your path forward, the trees disappear, right? It's what we focus on. And the same thing in the world of finance, or the same thing when speaking with my children. And the only difference, also the advice I would give for anybody, whether it's your financial world or even my kids, is there's very little difference between the words one day I want to be able to do this, and day one. Why can't today be day one to change your life? But in order to do that, Madison, you're going to have to get comfortable with the uncomfortable.
I agree.
Embrace that, because change is extremely hard, right? And it's extremely painful, whether you're in the gym and going through a new health routine, whether you're kind of learning a new language, right? We're not asking, tuning in this podcast, we're not asking you to, take a PhD course in finance. That's what you have. That's what I have in terms of like our financial degrees, if you will. But what we want to do is sort of level set expectations and change your mindset to then invite you to say, hey, you can do this. And we're going to teach you the tools and the techniques and the tricks, if you will, of all the experience of those that have been there before you, right?
Right.
To gain all of that knowledge. And hopefully we can help one or two that are out there listening today.
I agree.
What other questions do you have for me?
Piggybacking off of what you said, that wealthy people have different mindsets than people who maybe are not as well off financially. How can people change their mindset to move towards getting to a more financially stable place in life?
Yeah, it's a great question. And again, that mindset that you should adopt moving forward, right? One day versus day one. Why can't this be your day one of your new financial future, right?
Right.
There's a couple of things that are connected to that. One of the sayings that we use all the time is that you can't manage what you don't measure. Okay. So let's say you take your personal finances and you think they're upside down or not where you want them to be today.
Right.
Again, make that vision for tomorrow and let's work backwards. Okay. And write it down. I mean, that's one of the key, most critical things that you could ever do in goal setting mindset is talk about where you want to be, write it down, and then put that in your desk drawer. And a year later, look at those goals and see what you've achieved.
Yeah.
It's the power of your mind that we discussed before, and what you put in, literally, that's what your mind will focus on and move towards. So the first thing is that let's get on the table your finances. Okay. Whether it be credit card debt, whether it be student loans, whether it be, you want to buy the second home, you want to go on a vacation. Around the world, whatever it happens to be, whatever your sort of money sort of goals are, write them down and then work backwards as to what the best way to do it. Now, oftentimes it's not easy, Madison, because majority of people don't have the financial background as they should, right? School, educational system has failed. So what do? You either have the mindset of like, let me learn, self-taught. There's a lot of stuff out there. I always say change your daily digital, right? Next episode, we'll talk about open growth and how you can do sort of tips and tricks for that. But to change your daily digital, right? What you're looking at. You can't tell me that you and I don't have time based upon our phones, right? Our screen time. You can't tell me that we don't have enough time during the day. If like, you can go in your phone right now and go to Apple, your iPhone, and find out how much screen time you actually spend on all the social media handles. Well, good news, bad news, right? It's hard to change that habit, but one habit you can change is, tap into few podcasts, right?
Right.
Tap into some financial education, financial literacy, financial courses that are in the world of TikTok, that are in Facebook Reels, that are in whatever platform you choose to spend your time, even Instagram, go down that path a little bit. And what's great about that is the technology is so smart enough today, this as well, is the minute you click on it, it's going to know, oh, you have interest in this. If you do it 2 or 3 times, you have more interest on it. And so that's the compounding effect of using the AI technology of where we are today to, again, increase your educational sort of vertical. And over time, you're going to use the compounding effect of like getting more and more TikToks, if you will, on financial wellness, financial health, so on and so forth. That's a little tip that I think everyone says, I don't have the time, or I don't have the energy, or I don't even have the interest. Just try it and see what happens. Because trust me, use this AI-driven technology world for you. Right? It's there. And either it could be going in the direction that they want you to go in, the advertisers, marketers, or go in the direction that you want to be in. Okay. So that's one of the things, right? The vision of where you want to be, start getting the open to growth mindset, adding in additional education that'll get you there. And then finally, you could partner with somebody, right? An accountability partner. A lot of people hire us as financial advisors, one, for our experience, because, oh, guess what? We've seen this, like, not just once, your particular situation. We've seen it all the time, right? So we kind of have the solutions. It's kind of like taking us into an escape room, but we played the escape room game a million times.
Right.
So financially speaking, I'm going to take Madison in there because you're going to fast track all the clues. That's what we are, right? So you don't have to do it by yourself. You don't have to do it on your own. We're sort of a psychological financial coach, if you will. And yes, everyone's going through something financially speaking. Oftentimes why people don't get help is because they're embarrassed, right? They're embarrassed by their finances. Yeah. I personally, I have my credit monitored by Equifax or whatever. And I constantly get a text every time there's an inquiry or a balance change, right? It's so critical that everyone stays on top of their finances. Your credit score is one of the things you should. So lock down your credit, get on a credit report, start paying for some of those, third-party plans.
Start paying attention to
and get that
score.
instant sort of notification. And I do. So I'll be in the business day and it'll say, oh, your balance changed. And, I have to change my personal mindset because I'm like, it didn't go down. It went up, right? My credit card balance went up. So, but I have to say, okay, for that one moment in time, I'm like, okay, which one of my kids has one of my credit cards that did an unauthorized purchase on one of my, that's why I also monitor my credit cards. Because I got, everyone everywhere. But it's a smart thing to do. But also I have to check myself. I personally check myself. Now let's transition to the game of investing, right? The Psychology of Money is one of my favorite books. Yeah. And everyone should read it. And it really goes to sort of the behavioral mindset of investing, because investing is not so much just about the knowledge as it is checking your emotions. And so you and I both know we come in any given day. The news cycle is always crazy. The financial world's 24/7. And so we're constantly walking into, what do we pay attention to? What's important? What's going to move the markets? And how do we navigate our clients' portfolios and our investments accordingly? Oh, by the way, we could also walk into a Monday, which we did not too long ago, and the markets were down by, 15%. Yeah. Right? So do we panic? How do we interpret this? How do we handle our clients? How do we keep them engaged? And so how do we process all of this pressure? Right? And so we have a lot of, again, the way we see the world, how we have our game plan moving forward. Because again, you don't have a game plan, you're not going anywhere. Right. And then you also have things on our financial dashboard that help us navigate the financial world for our clients. But it's easier for us because that's how we're built. It's not so easy when you're managing, let's say, your personal finances or trying to do it yourself. Because then you'll wake up and see the headline and you'll do probably a self-inflicting wound, unfortunately, financially, where you're like, oh, I'm worried that if the market went down by 10, it can go down by 20, which it could. We can't say it won't, and it does.
Of course.
But you have to know sort of what to look for so you don't make that emotional reaction, that knee-jerk reaction that then takes you out of the game, puts you on the sidelines, and really does long-term sort of harm to your overall financial well-being. So you kind of have to position yourself accordingly. So maybe you do have somebody helping you and you want to bounce that off of when you see the world sort of turned upside down financially.
Thank you everyone for watching. This episode is sponsored by Blanky Shine Wealth Management. We've been in the Coachella Valley for 40 years and we're built for the next 40 years. You can find us at blankyshinewealthmanagement.com. And now back to the episode. Going back to you saying that one of the biggest limiting beliefs that people have that kind of deters them from having a good mindset around money is people being too embarrassed to seek out help. I feel like specifically with women, finance just hasn't traditionally been a space where women feel super comfortable in. What do you specifically tell women about that limiting belief that they don't necessarily belong in finance and just that finance is more uncomfortable traditionally for women than men?
Yeah, it's a great question. And you know that 68% of women default to their partner for financial decisions.
Yeah.
And I think we talked about this once before. Women most often are better. In fact, there's a Fidelity study that actually says that women are better investors than men.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. But that's not published. It's not like headline news. It could be a news for a weekend, but you know, unless you're tuning into Fidelity personally on your digital feed, you're not going to get that headline.
Right.
More importantly, you might not even feel that way. Be like, oh, well, that might be somebody else, but it's not me. Right. So there's all this misnomers out there. And what we've seen in our own practice are that women are better.
Yeah.
Okay. Better investors because they take more of a pragmatic, a planned approach, less knee jerk. But it goes down to sort of when the kids, right?
Yeah.
The kids on a playground, right? The boys are jumping out of trees and jumping off rocks and taking chances. It's how they are wired, right? Human nature. You know, little girls are not jumping out of trees and not jumping off rocks and a little bit more conservative, a little bit more cautious on the way they see the world. So guys make a lot more sort of errors, if you will, in terms of just being cavalier.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And they'll try it and they'll be like, okay, well, I lost money. And they'll do it again and do it again. By that, just by trying it, they're gaining more confidence.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So that's naturally how, you know, guys will do sports betting, if you will. You're going to lose, right? You're going to lose money, but guys will continue to do that. And they're going to continue to sort of forget about it and keep trying because they love the game of it. Now, I'm not trying to equate the investing to gambling, right? I'm trying to basically bridge the gap of the mindset that, you know, from early on adolescence, you know, girls and boys are different. Boys are willing to take risks.
Right.
So they have more experience.
Mm-hmm.
Whether that confidence is justified based upon their past experiences being successful or not, that's another question. Girls don't take that much risk. Therefore, when they have the ability, and I'm not suggesting that women in investing should take risks. What I am suggesting is that a little bit more education, a little bit more confidence.
Yeah.
Will go a long way because you already have it built in to do great things. You just need a little bit more open mindset, open to growth, partnering with somebody who's there to also, here's another thing. It's your interest in the education, right? You have an interest in finance, therefore you got the education.
Right.
Right. And guys will always start looking at, you know, being a little entrepreneurs. Well, why can't my daughters be entrepreneurs? Right. And so I'm trying to teach and bridge the gap of, you know, giving them the education or helping them find resources so that they can get the confidence. It really comes down to confidence. Long story short, what I'm trying to tell you.
Yeah, I agree. And I think a mindset that a lot of females have is that they want to have a male in their life to take care of them. And not to say that that's wrong at all, but something that we always talk about is 9 out of 10 women will eventually be solely responsible for their finances, which is just a mind-blowing statistic that I don't think a lot of women know. And I think a mindset that a lot of women have is just that it's not important for them to know about their finances and to know how to take care of them responsibly because they have always, their dad and their family was the one that always took care of it. And that's just their mindset. That's what's normal to them. but it is really important because 9 out of 10 women will be responsible for that one day. You need to be ready to take over that responsibility and have the capability to do that.
Absolutely. I mean, again, going back to my own personal story, my mom was the widow, right?
Right.
80% of women will be widowed, right?
Yeah.
That are married.
Yeah.
Those are just the facts, right? My daughters, right, growing up loving Disney, we watched the Prince Charming, as you were saying earlier. Like, it's that traditional, what you see, what's programmed of what might not be the reality of today. My job as a father is to protect, right? But at the same time, my wife and I want for our children is to create that independence, right? My job, and I'm still on this journey. It's not perfect, right? And they're in college, and every day I'm trying to figure out a way to connect with them, right? Because they don't want anything to do with, dad's not cool, and they don't want to listen to dad. And every time I talk about finance, I might as well be just talking about something that's least interest to all of them. You know. But I have 3 daughters. I have my beautiful wife, and I also have 7 nieces in my family, and this topic is very personal and passionate to me, as well as for my mom, right?
Right.
So I've got a lot of responsibility in my world, and that's why I'm here, is say, listen, if I could get my daughters to listen to the podcast, and if they are interested, or even one of their friends, right? We're changing the world one, person at a time to, again, have an interest in something that is so critically important for all the statistical analysis that are out there, or just the reality, right? The divorce rate.
Yeah.
And we're going to rip the Band-Aid, through this podcast series off a lot of touchy subjects, right? I think one of them is like, the number one stress in a relationship for couples, 1 or 2 is finance. Right. Right. And they don't really give you a financial education for couples. You have to kind of go out and seek it, right? You can get, if you want to get married in a church, you go to the church and they'll find out if you're compatible and they'll run you through that. But that might be an hour with the priest. It might be a days with the, with the clergy to see if, but other than that, you're good to go. I mean, I love how society is built. You can graduate high school, no financial education. You walk on day 1 on campus. We were just there last week with our daughter, dropping her off in school. And there's like, okay, sign up for this credit card for this bag of M&Ms. Yeah. And this bag of M&Ms could, like, if she doesn't understand what this actually means, and it was a great conversation, it was the first conversation I had with her. But we said, hey, listen, by the way, this could screw up your credit score. And you couldn't buy a car, couldn't get for an apartment. You're not going to get your first home if you don't think about what this implication means. And trust me, that bag of M&Ms is not worth your financial future, right? So you have to have the education for it, right? Yeah. But they're on campus all day long saying, hey, maybe it was bag of M&Ms for me when I was there years ago. Maybe it's an iPhone now if you want to sign up. But regardless, you have to know what the implications are of that. I think that's what's missing. And the best part is how society is so out of touch with reality. Let me give you another example. When we had our first child, right? We were ready. We were discharged. I got the car around, put the baby in Taylor in the car seat, Jen's in the front, and we're driving home. And I'm like, they literally discharged my wife and I from the hospital with this newborn baby, a real life, with no manual, no like, here you go. And like maybe one piece of yellow paper that you have to put on the refrigerator about like some protocols, but like that was it. Unless we proactively took a course, which we did, we signed up for. Yeah. Or you get what to expect when expecting. And then after you get the other book, which is like what to do when the baby doesn't stop crying 24 hours, like at night. Yeah. And oh, by the way, you're a new parent. So, it's insane, right? There's no education on finance. There's no education on how to raise your kids. There's no education. But they're going to, in school, they'll cram down what's really important to what they think is important, which is really out of touch with society today, I think.
I agree. I think it's so sad that people don't get a financial education in high school. It's crazy.
My thoughts on that.
So if someone says, I want to get my finances together, I want to learn more about it, what do you think, like, what is the mindset that they should go in with? We've talked about that you need to realize how important it is for, if you're male or female, to be educated on finances. I feel like that's the first thing, but what else would you add?
Yeah, it starts with the basics of budgeting. Okay. It's a simple budget. Okay. And that's something that no one needs to pay for. You don't need to go sign up for somebody's program. There's plenty of thousands of free stuff on YouTube.
Right.
We really, in American society today, we don't need to pay for another dime of college education because it's all on YouTube right now.
It really is.
Google has free college courses on anything you ever wanted to know.
Yeah.
So my always go to, and I'll tell you this fun story. I'll get back to the other story, but I have to tell you this story. So going back to, when we had Taylor, we had this new stroller, right? And it was like the best on the market, most expensive we couldn't afford. But we're like, okay, this is something that we both really wanted, and we splurged and we got it, right? And so we got out of the box, and Jenica's trying to put this thing to sort of figure it out. And I'm just, this is her deal. She really wants to put this together because she wants to know how it all works. And I'm there to support.
Yeah.
And I'm terrible at putting things together anyway, so it's better that she does it anyway. But so she gets to the point where she can't open it up, like literally open it up. And we're looking at every button or every the directions don't help us at all. So she gets to the point where she's like, okay, she's going to have to walk away, right? She just walks away, takes a break. What do? I go to YouTube and I type in our make and model, and it shows us how to open it. There was like one little button you couldn't find.
Yeah.
I push it, I open it up. I stroll the stroller into our master bedroom, and she just looked at me and she's like, what the do? I'm like, I read the directions. Well, she knows I never read the directions on anything. So now she knows I'm full of shit. But the point is that you can get a lot from YouTube. You don't need to pay.
Yeah. Which I feel like, going back to mindset, that's just being resourceful and willing to search for stuff yourself, whether it's a book or YouTube or Instagram, TikTok, whatever. There's so many resources out there. So just being willing to educate yourself on it and look for resources.
That's a great one. And again, I get that from my mom.
Yeah.
And one of the things that she would do, she was very clever, very smart. Customer service, right? We're going to, there's a problem at first, you see this in the Jerry Seinfeld world all the time. He always makes fun of this, right? And how the customer service world kind of just disconnected from the reality. And there's a lot of great Seinfeld episodes. But I watched my mom be sort of in many of these, scenarios where it just quite wasn't working her way, whether she's returning something at Target or whatever, or we're ever doing something. And she would always say this to somebody, or we're in a hotel checking in, like, oh, sorry. Or you're trying to get your rent-a-car and they had a reservation, but they don't have a car. I don't think you understand the definition of reservation. That's the Seinfeld episode, if you will. She would look at the person on the other side and view them not as an adversary, but as a partner in a situation that you and I are now in together, and we're going to solve together. You're not going anywhere, and I'm not going anywhere. I have all the time in the world. But she would always look at it like a different way of approaching it, right? Okay, say, hey, listen, Madison, I understand that, you don't have any rent-a-cars, but what we're going to need together, as you and I are going to work together to work through a solution, and we have all the time in the world, so we're going to solve this together based upon what you know and your resources. What would you do? How can we work this together? And once the customer service agent hears that, like, oh, you're not going anywhere and we're together, you're not being mad at them, you're not blaming them, but you're engaging them in a way to help them with their knowledge base that you don't have because they work for the company,
right? To
help work your problem and solve your problem. My mom would never give up. So she always had that mindset of like, you're never going to give up. Like if there's,
that's awesome.
If you go, here's a test, fail a test, take it again. You learned a little bit more, but the only thing that's going to stop you. I mean, look at how many attorneys didn't pass the first time, financial advisors, whatever you want to call it.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
I think we should ask our doctor if they did pass the first time. I think that would be kind of important, but maybe for an attorney, I don't know. But my point is that mindset to keep going. And she always, had that for me from day one of like, listen, is this what you want? Because only you can stop you from getting what you want. Right? Only a customer service agent could literally like shut you down and say, sorry. No, I think we're going to work this problem and we're work it together.
Yeah. And
together we can get through it. So, but she had the mindset right on of like, no, we're good. Let's do this together. And so that was really key. But again, going back to budgeting, you can solve it. So, look it up on YouTube, how to budget, basics of budgeting. Most people do know. It's essentially what you take in and what you spend money on, right?
Yeah.
And oftentimes this is higher than this. right?
Right.
So you can't manage what you don't measure. So that's what the budget does. It then helps us track your spending for 30 days, 90 days if you want. Most credit cards do that for you.
What do you think is the best way to track it? Write it down, create an Excel document.
Well, again, you have to learn Excel. So again, a lot of that credit card data is already captured.
Yeah,
right?
that's
true.
If
you go into all these financial services, companies that you're already working with, if you go into their website, they will have some tools and resources for you. So it's nothing extra that you need to do. You just need to go in and start looking. And so there's some budgeting tools in there. There's a lot of sort of different resources in there that it can help you. And so, I use American Express, and American Express will show me meals and entertainment and travel, and they're already pre-categorized. And so you start, another term that we use in the world of finance is a trend is your friend. Okay. So if markets are going up on a daily basis, you're not going to bet up against the market. A trend is your friend. Or if you're spending too much money on, Sunday brunches and meals and entertainment, and your budget is showing you such, that's not a good trend.
Right.
But you can't tackle that and say, hey, listen, let me just reduce it by 10% next month. And oh, by the way, let's start saving or paying down debt. And most people don't, but they should start prioritizing. And on the budget, I would always encourage everyone to pay themselves first. Okay. Save money for a rainy day, create a emergency bucket, right? 3 months of a salary in a bank account, not an investment account, a bank account. And yes, you might not get higher interest on that, but there's ways of doing that. You could, but it's not risk money. It's money that is like saving it for a rainy day, having that cushion. Because as you know, life comes at you, and there's always that, we get home from work and there's that something in the mail that you didn't expect, and that's unexpected bill. So yeah, that's number one, but pay yourself first in the budget line, and also max out your investments, your 401k, because your employer is also going to match that, and that's free money.
Right.
That's key and critical. And you always think you can't afford it, but especially when you're starting out new in a new job, start first. Start paying yourself first. Start, maximizing your 401ks, because the power of compounding when you're young is the eighth wonder of the world.
Yeah.
All right. Well, thank you for joining us for our episode today. And I'm going to leave us with a positive quote. And I'm a quote guy. I love quotes. And this is from Lao Tzu. And he, years ago, Chinese philosopher said, watch your thoughts, for they become words. Watch your words, for they become actions. Watch your actions, for they become habits. Watch your habits, for they become character. Watch your character, for that becomes your destiny. So I want to thank you today for tuning in. We really appreciate your time, and we're looking forward to seeing you for the next episode of Open to Growth. We trust that you've learned something, and you're going to share this with friends and family. But more importantly, this is the first step, day one, of a financial future that is very bright and even brighter for you tomorrow. Thanks for watching.
This podcast is brought to you by David Field Producer. It is produced and directed by David Field and Kristen George. And its mix, edit, and socials by Kristen George. Blanky Shine Wealth Management is a group of investment professionals registered with Hightower Services, LLC, member FINRA and SIPC, and with Hightower Advisors, LLC, a registered investment advisor with the SEC. Securities are offered through Hightower Securities, LLC. Advisory services are offered through Hightower Advisors, LLC. This is not an offer to buy or sell securities. No investment process is free of risk, and there is no guarantee that the investment process or the investment opportunities referenced herein will be profitable. Past performance is not indicative of current or future performance and is not a guarantee. The investment opportunities referenced herein may not be suitable for all investors. All data and information referenced herein are from sources believed to be reliable. Any opinions, news, research, analysis, prices, or other information contained in this research is provided as general market commentary. It does not constitute investment advice. Blanky Shine Wealth Management and Hightower shall not in any way be liable for claims and make no expressed or implied representations or warranties as to the accuracy or completeness of the data and other information, or for statements or errors contained in or omissions from the obtained data and information referenced herein. The data and information are provided as of the date referenced. Such data and information are subject to change without notice. This document was created for informational purposes only. The opinions expressed are solely those of Blanky Shine Wealth Management and do not represent those of Hightower Advisors, LLC, or any of its affiliates.